Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridharadhari Yasodhanandana Rajjanarajana Sodhanandana Rajjanarajana Ramunadira Banagari Yamuna Tira Banagari Om Jnana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tashmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupagada Mayam Vedati Swabharantikam Vandeham Siguro Sijuta Padakamalam Sigurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrujatam Sahagana Ragana Tangvidam Tang Sajivam Vadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Saptakam Chanagaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Bhaktakapatu Vascha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Ram Jaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudidayet Nasta Preshu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavat Shevaya Bhagavad Utama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistaki. Today, Thursday, April 18th, 2024, 4/18/24, and we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 4:22-18. This had been 2 years ago, it would have been perfect. 4/22/18 and 4/18/22. But anyway, it's 4/18/24. And the fourth canto entitled Creation of the Fourth Order. And chapter number 22, entitled, who knows? Nobody knows the chapter, the title of the chapter we're reading? Yes. Prithu Maharaj's meeting with the four Kumaras. He was looking it up on his phone. He should know. That's what the phone is for. It's for understanding Krishna. So today, text number 18. Sanat Kumara Uvacha Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja Sarvabhuta Hitatmana Bhavata Vidusha Chapi Sadhunam Matir Idrishi Sanat Kumara Uvacha Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja Sarvabhuta Hitatmana Bhavata Vidusha Chapi Sadhunam Matir Idrishi Sanat Kumara Uvacha Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja Sarvabhuta Hitatmana Bhavata Vidusha Chapi Sadhunam Matir Idrishi. Let's check.
Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja
Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja
Sarvabhuta Hitatmana
Sarvabhuta Hitatmana
Bhavata Vidusha Chapi
Bhavata Vidusha Chapi
Sadhunam Matir Idrishi
Sadhunam Matir Idrishi.
Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja
Sadhu Prishtam
Maharaja
Sarvabhuta Hitatmana
Bhavata Vidusha Chapi
Bhavata Vidusha Chapi Sadhunam Matir Idrishi.
Sanat Kumara Uvacha
Sanat Kumara Uvacha
Prishtam Maharaja
Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja Sarvabhuta Hitatmana Bhavata Vidusha Chapi Sadhunam Matir Idrishi.
Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja
Sadhu Prishtam Maharaja Sarvabhuta Hitatmana Bhavata Vidusha Chapi Sadhunam Matir Idrishi. The synonyms. Sanat Kumara Uvacha. Sanat Kumara said. Sadhu. Saintly. Prishtam. Question. Maharaja. My dear king. Sarvabhuta. All living entities. Hita Atmana. By one who desires good for all. Bhavata. By you. Vidusha. Well learned. Cha. And. Api. Although. Sadhunam. Of the saintly persons. Matihi. Intelligence. Idrishi. like this. Translation by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Sanat Kumara said, "My dear King Prithu, I am very nicely questioned by you. Such questions are beneficial for all living entities, especially because they are raised by you. You're always thinking of the good of others. Although you know everything, you ask such questions because that is the behavior of saintly persons. Such intelligence is befitting your position." Please repeat. Sanat Kumara said, "My dear King Prithu, I am very nicely questioned by you. Such questions are beneficial for all living entities, especially because they are raised by you. We are always thinking of the good of others. Although you know everything, you ask such questions because that is the behavior of saintly persons. Such intelligence is befitting your position." Purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj Prithu was well conversant in transcendental science, yet he presented himself before the Kumaras as one ignorant of it. The idea is that even if a person is very exalted and knows everything before his superior, he should present questions. For instance, although Arjuna knew all the transcendental science, he questions Krishna as if he did not know. Similarly, Prithu Maharaj knew everything, but he presented himself before the Kumaras as if he did not know anything. The idea is that questions by exalted persons put before the Supreme Personality of Godhead or His devotees are meant for the benefit of the general people. Therefore, sometimes great personalities put themselves in that position and inquire from a higher authority because they are always thinking of the benefit of others. Sanat Kumara Ubach Sadhu Prishtam Maharaj Sarvabhuta Hitatmana Bhavata Vidusha Chapi Sadhunam Matur Idrishi. Sanat Kumara said, "My dear King Prithu, I am very nicely questioned by you. Such questions are beneficial for all living entities, especially because they are raised by you, who are always thinking of the good of others. Although you know everything, you ask such questions because that is the behavior of saintly persons. Such intelligence is befitting your position." Mukum karoti vachalam Pangam lagayate girim jatkripa tamaham vande Sri Gurum Niratarino. So this verse illustrates the way of dealing between devotees or between the Lord and His devotees, specifically between Maharaj Prithu, who is what? Empowered incarnation, Shakyavesh avatar of the Lord, imbued with the potency to rule as a great king. But simultaneously, also, he is a great saintly person. And as is illuminated here, he is fully enlightened in transcendental knowledge. So, if one is in such a position that he is fully enlightened in transcendental knowledge, then why should he ask of other saintly persons, why should he inquire from them about transcendental knowledge when he is already in full possession of such transcendental knowledge? But it is not a question of just making small talk for the sake of making small talk or doing something official for the sake of the right etiquette. Rather, that is the way of Krishna consciousness. That even the enlightened persons, they submissively inquire from other enlightened devotees as if they themselves were not enlightened and were requiring that enlightenment, even though they are already enlightened. So what further enlightenment they're requiring, you might think. But no, that is the natural humility of a Vaishnava, to inquire from another Vaishnava, especially a superior Vaishnava, or one who is in a higher position. And that is the way of the Vaishnava etiquette. But above and beyond that, it churns the ocean of nectar of Krishna consciousness, such discussions. And also, such discussions are meant for the benefit of everyone. And so Sanat Kumar is saying this to Maharaj Prithu, that this is nice you're asking, but it is especially amazing because you are so qualified that you're always thinking of the welfare of others. Therefore, you're actually trying to benefit them by eliciting this discussion of transcendental subject matter. So that is the transcendental nature of dealings in Krishna consciousness. Then one will inquire, even though one may know the answer, supposedly or theoretically, but one inquires for the benefit of receiving further enlightenment. And we could all use a little more enlightenment in our existence. So it's not something foolish or hackneyed or dry, as unenlightened persons might think under such conditions. Well, why is he asking? He already knows. He's just, why is he doing it like that? But they do not understand that this is the culture of spiritual enlightenment, and it has its own internal mechanism, its own way of being and existing that is based on Krishna consciousness. Plus, he's being glorified by Sanat Kumar because he said, this inquiry from you is so nice because you care about everyone else. So you want everyone to benefit from this discussion. And we could say the whole Shastra, the whole Vedic Shastra is like this, a series of discussions, questions, and answers that is all meant to benefit us or the hearer, anyone who is hearing these discussions. They become benefited. Prabhupada gives, and also there's an example of this in the Srimad Bhagavatam, when the sages at Naimisharanya are inquiring from Shaunaka Rishi, or Shaunaka Rishi presenting himself as the spokesperson on behalf of all the sadhus. They're inquiring from Sutta Goswami, who has heard the Bhagavatam from Shukadev Goswami, and they're congratulated by him when he says in the second chapter, Muniyak sadhaprishtoham bhavadbir lokamangalam yet krita Krishna samprashno yenat masu prasiditi. Your questions are worthy and relevant because bhavadbir lokamangalam, they're meant to benefit, they're auspicious for the entire world. Loka Mangalam, for all the people of the world. Loka can mean the world or the people. So this is nice that you're inquiring into spiritual life, and it's benefiting everyone. And of course, Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to be heard by many, many persons, and it is broadcast. It's part of. That's a great part of Srila Prabhupada's mission, was to translate and comment on the Srimad Bhagavatam for the understanding of everyone. And therefore he was very keen on distribution of his books so that everyone can benefit by hearing this discussion and hearing these topics that are illuminated in the Bhagavatam for the benefit of everyone. And then Prabhupada kindly enlightens us in the purport. This is the same thing with Arjuna. When Arjuna is inquiring from Krishna, again, second chapter. We're talking about second chapter of Bhagavatam and second chapter of Gita. In the second chapter of Gita, he's inquiring from Krishna as if he did not know anything. But Prabhupada says he knew everything. He knows everything. Who is Arjuna? Just some guy who happened to be like really good with a bow? No, he's much more than that. Although he was the best archer who ever graced the planet Earth. That's true. But more than being a great, talented and empowered Kshatriya, he is something else. He is a very close associate of Krishna. When the sages Nara and Narayan appeared, that is Krishna and Arjuna. So Krishna says that to Arjuna, that many, many births both you and I have passed. You cannot remember them all, but I can remember them. Because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His memory is better than the memory of Job. He doesn't forget anything. He knows everything. He's the knower of past, present, future. He's the knower of all living entities and of everything that is in the heart of every living entity. That would seem like a big burden if one of us were to try to do something like that. Know what's in the heart of every single person. Yet the Lord, he's right there present with the living entity, and he knows everything. Like we've mentioned this before, they say that about Santa Claus. He knows what you are thinking. He knows when you're awake. He knows when you've been good or bad, so be good for goodness sake. But Santa Claus doesn't know everything. Although he was a saint named Nicholas, and when you say that in Dutch, it's Saint Niklaas. So that's in English it becomes Santa Claus, Saint Niklaas, Niklaas, Saint Niklaas. So it sounds like Santa Claus, but that's the Anglicization of Saint Nicholas, Saint Niklaas. So he may have been the great devotee of the Lord. I don't know much about him, but I don't think he's like the super soul. I've not heard any other account of that aside from that little children's song about Santa Claus. But the Lord is within the heart of everyone. And he knows everything you're thinking. He knows everything about you. He knows all your dirty little secrets. And he knows what is the best in you, which may manifest occasionally for the conditioned soul, but he also knows what's the worst in you, which is usually that which is manifest in the consciousness of the conditioned soul, that attachment to the coverings and the modes of nature, lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy, which are not our friends, by the way. Considering they're not our friends, they're actually our enemies, yet we take shelter of them as if they were our good friends, as if they're going to give us some good, beneficial outcome, but they do not. That is our foolishness and our determination to not surrender to Krishna. When we surrender to Krishna, then we no longer take shelter of such things. Lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy. The devotee becomes free from those six enemies and becomes situated in their pure spiritual position as a servant of Krishna who wants to benefit everyone else also. And that is the character and quality, as we mentioned, of Srila Prabhupada. He is very eager to benefit everyone in the world with Krishna consciousness. More than just eager, he's working his tail off to do that. He's working as hard as conceivably possible for a living entity to work in order to give Krishna to everyone. And that is the special qualification of Srila Prabhupada. He's a great soul, a Mahatma. Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahurvimuktas. By serving the great persons, the Mahatmas, who are not especially common in the world, as explained in Bhagavad Gita, that Asam Mahatma Sadurlabaha, it is very difficult to find or see such a Mahatma. That such a great soul is very rare, as is put by Srila Prabhupada in the Gita. Sa Mahatma Sadurlabaha. But Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahurvimuktas, the doorway, the Dwaram, the gate, Dwaram Ahurvimuktas, the door to liberation is opened up. It's flung wide open for those who engage in Mahat Sevam. And therefore, our old friend Mahatma, he used to remind me of that when we were working together. He was saying, by serving the Mahatma, the door to liberation is open. And then he would look at me, and who is Mahatma? Of course, it was the humorous thing that he was joking that, you should serve me. But it was all in sincere good fun, of course. He was not proud that thinking I'm the great soul and therefore you have to serve me for liberation, for your own liberation. But he presented it like that, and it was very humorous, and it also is part of the devotees have different relationships, and in these relationships they joke with one another and prod one another and kid one another. There's an example of that in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Lord Chaitanya were taking prasad at the house of Advaitacharya. And then Advaitacharya was criticizing Nitai. He says, well, what kind of sadhu are you? We don't know what family you come from, and you're not always dressing properly, and you're coming into my house, and I don't know what kind of sinful reactions I'll have to accrue by having you in my house. And then Nityananda Prabhu told Advaitacharya, I've come here to eat, and there's not even enough rice to decently break any ordinary hungry person's fast. But what kind of host are you that you cannot even provide enough rice for your guests? And then he took some of the rice and he threw it at Advaitacharya, and it stuck to his leg and his foot. And then when that happened, Advaitacharya started dancing madly in ecstasy. So, I am so fortunate that today I've been chastised by Nityananda Prabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So although they were appearing to criticize each other, actually they were praising each other. He was praising Nityananda that not you are from some unknown caste, but you're the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You're beyond any caste. You're transcendental. No one can confine you or categorize you in terms of some foolish material identity, but you're beyond that. So in this way, there are these relationships, these joking relationships. And also, one time they were having these water pastimes in Jagannath Puri, and it's described that the associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who are very grave and very deep, were splashing about in the water like little children. And they would be splashing each other and throwing water in each other's face and hurling insults and doing such things. And but that is all on a transcendental level, beyond like a bunch of guys from the locker room roughhousing or something like that. It is not the same thing. The guys from the locker room roughhousing, that is the perverted reflection. And the actual thing is the real relationships and exchanges that go on in the spiritual world. So under all conditions, we should always take shelter of Krishna consciousness in the relationships amongst the devotees as far as possible, without getting bogged down in the lower material rasas, which are actually distasteful. And one has to be expert, and one has to become spiritually developed also to understand such dealings appropriately without bringing things down to the mundane platform. Of course, for most of us, it is very easy to bring things down to the mundane platform because that is our platform. We are always on that platform, so we don't know beyond that. But take heart, you can learn, we can all learn to become more Krishna conscious. I believe it was Radhanath Swami who gave the example that they have a method for polishing the rough precious stones, like the diamonds or other precious stones. The method of polishing is they put them all together and then they shake it up and they all rub against each other. And then all the rough edges are smoothed out by this agitation, this physical agitation, all the stones bumping up against one another, rubbing up against one another. So that analogy was given that, like all the devotees in the temple, we're all here together, with our rough edges unpolished, and by bumping up against each other and interacting, then gradually those rough edges are smoothed out and polished. I thought that was a very nice analogy that is very appropriate. And all of us here in temple life, it's the way it is. But it has a beneficial effect. But if we just simply say, oh, it's too rough, everyone is too rough and they're bumping up against me and I'll just go away. Then how will you get purified? How will you get smoothed out from your rough edges? If you just go away, let me just go away and, come every once in a blue moon or, in other words, let me avoid the purification because sometimes it is difficult or all the time it is difficult. So why should I bother? Let me just go away and take it easy. But then you lose the opportunity to make advancement. So we all know this, that's why we're here. One of the reasons why we're here. And then we have to tolerate. Sometimes adverse conditions or dealings, but then there's great benefit that's accrued from that toleration. And if one just simply wants to avoid any inconvenience, there's a type of selfish sense gratification. So, hang in there, Prabhus. It's good for you. It's good for your spiritual life. You will make some advancement. Although it's, making spiritual advancement, it's not the primrose path. If you want the primrose path, then you'll never make any advancement. And anyway, if you're thinking you want some primrose path that's minus Krishna consciousness and all the challenges and austerities, actually, there will be challenges and austerities in other ways. Only thing is, you won't make any advancement, you'll just suffer. So an intelligent person will choose the path that is the most favorable for Krishna consciousness. And as we have explained here many times, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said that any inconvenience that I encounter while trying to serve you, O Lord Krishna, although I may not ostensibly like that situation materially, but that inconvenience, that suffering, that pain that I experience in executing your service, I will consider that to be the greatest happiness. And any material happiness that comes to me that has no connection to your service, I will consider that the greatest impediment. Now, an ordinary person can never think like this. No, anything that's a hassle, forget it. I'm out of here, Jack. For an ordinary person. And any good fortune of sense gratification that comes to me, I will relish it to the max. Yes, sir. Woohoo. So here we see the contradistinction and the difference between one who is sincerely desiring to advance and attain the ultimate goal of the shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna, with those who simply want to enjoy their senses. What a difference. It's like one goes this way and one goes that way. So which way do you want to go? Oh, well, we want to be on the path to go back home, back to Godhead. Even if it's a little bit troublesome. Srila Prabhupada actually was talking about this when he was engaged in this huge fight with Mr. Nair, who was trying to cheat Prabhupada out of the land at Juhu. Once Prabhupada had made a down payment, and Mr. Nair was the great cheater. He had done this to a couple of other people on the same property. Let them make a down payment, and then through some tricks and manipulation, say that they didn't fulfill the conditions they were supposed to, and they could not have the land. Meanwhile, keeping the whatever money he had taken from them, which was a large quantity of money, many rupees. So Prabhupada, he thought he could cheat Prabhupada. He thought Prabhupada was an ordinary conditioned soul like him. But Srila Prabhupada, determined, empowered, preacher of Krishna consciousness, who is empowered to spread the Yuga Dharma, wouldn't let this cheater get in his way. So it was a big fight. And then Prabhupada said, we have come to Krishna consciousness for a life of bliss, and we are finding so much fighting and struggling for Krishna's service. It's like, oh, I came to Krishna to get some peace, and all I got was so much anxiety. Krishna has cheated me. Sometimes devotees think like this. Sometimes they'll be in situations that they just can't handle or deal with, and they'll think, oh, I came to serve Krishna, and then Krishna made everything so difficult. Yeah, Krishna is just a cheater. He just cheated me. I'm going back home to mom, or whatever, wherever. You know, if the mother is not alive or doesn't have any money, you can hardly go back home to her. Yeah, Mama Maya Dhirodatta, which means that my material energy, it is very difficult. You cannot cross beyond it. But there's another meaning given by the devotees. Thank you for reminding me. Mama Maya Dhirodatta, going home to mommy is very difficult also. Mama Maya Dhirodatta, because mama's in Maya, generally speaking. If one has a mother who's a great devotee, that's a different situation. That's all right. But Mama Maya Dhirodatta, going home to mommy, this is too difficult. This one devotee, this Mataji, a younger devotee in Mayapur, had written about her experience. She was having some dire health conditions, and they thought for sure she was going to leave her body. And she felt like she was leaving her body. And then she was amazed. She did recover. And so she reported this afterwards. She was amazed that, what did she think of? Where did her mind go when she was getting ready to leave her body? She said she thought of her mother. And ashram, she goes, what the hell's going on here? Why am I thinking of my mother? I'm thinking of Krishna. And then she remembered all the kirtans she had ever been in. They all came to her in a flash as the most important and significant thing in her life was taking shelter of the holy name and the benefit she was accruing. And then she didn't pass away. And so she wrote about her experience. I saw it on Dandavats.com. And a fairly young devotee. But such good realizations. But I was shocked when I read that she thought of her mother. I thought, oh no, hope that doesn't happen to me. I mean, my mother was a nice mother and everything, but geez. She was very supportive of me becoming a devotee. It was like one of those, you know, from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. Oh, honey, whatever makes you happy makes me happy. So if you want to run away and abandon us and go to Krishna, then if that makes you happy, all right, go ahead. Go ahead, honey. Go to Krishna. If that makes you happy. It's like, oh, thank you. Wasn't expecting it, that less amount of resistance. I was expecting more, which I got from the other side, from my father. Big resistance on that side. That was a fight. That was I was in the fight of my life with that one. But even he wore it down and then became favorable and appreciated Krishna consciousness. So I was very amazed at reading this, I can't remember her name, the devotee's experience about coming so close to death, practically to the point of almost leaving the body. And then what happened to her consciousness, and then her coming back from that almost point of no return, and then relating all that narration in her writing. Very powerful realization. So we have to always think about Krishna, hear about Krishna, chant Krishna's name, and that will keep us protected. Srila Prabhupada says that kirtan rasa is the safest position in the material world. When you're absorbed in hearing the holy names, then you are in the best position that you can possibly be in. So one who's always absorbed in chanting and hearing the holy name and all associated things like Krishna's pastimes and the stories and the lives of the great devotees, then one is in a good position. Srila Prabhupada had one godbrother named Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. And Krishnadas Babaji was very expert kirtan chanter, very absorbed in the holy name. I used to have a cassette tape of him in one kirtan. It was really a fantastic kirtan. He was playing the drum and he played this very simple beat, and his chanting was very powerful. But unfortunately, I was separated from my collection of cassette tapes. I was attached to those, and Krishna took them away from me at one point. They were stolen. A big collection of cassettes, or as they say in India, cassette. In like used to have these wooden boxes that the grapes would come in, like so. And under there were stacked all those tapes, and that was a very nice tape of Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. And he used to keep a diary. And in his diary, page after page after page, he wrote the Hare Krishna mantra in his diary book. So like, dear diary, you know, today I did this, today, dear diary, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. That's what he was thinking. That's what he was doing. That's what he was absorbed in. So that's what he wrote, page after page in his diary. Imagine that. Such a devotee. Yeah. Always absorbed in the holy name of Krishna. And maybe we should try keeping diaries like that. Get a notebook and then write the Hare Krishna mantra. So that was Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, famous for his being absorbed in the holy name of Krishna and then proving it by his writing. No, he didn't write any books, but he wrote the Hare Krishna mantra in every page of his diary. So imagine such a devotee like that. And his chanting, very beautiful, very mellifluous, and just imbued and dripping with bhakti, with love for Krishna, as is the way of the great devotees. So in the second chapter, we were talking a little bit earlier about Arjuna. He appeared to be confused and bewildered about what to do in this battle of Kurukshetra, because there was a conflict of interest to want to fight his own cousins, his own family members, the whole dynasty from which he had descended, over some misunderstanding. And how can I kill my superiors? Like Dronacharya was his martial guru. He was on the other side. How can I kill Drona? How can I kill grandfather Bhishma, the greatest personality in the whole dynasty? Great devotee. I mean, you want me to fight Bhishma? It's impossible. That's just so disrespectful, and it's crazy. I can't deal with this. I can't do it. And then finally he says to Krishna, Karpanya dosha pahata sobhava, which charmi tam dhuma samudha, what is it? Samudha cheta, yaschayan shanishtitam, bruhi tanme, shishashteham shadi mam tvam, prapanam. So, shishashteham, you tell me, you're my guru. I'm your shishya, I'm your disciple. Shishash teham, te means you, aham means me. Shishash teham, I'm becoming your disciple. Shishash teham, shadi mam tvam prapanam. Prapanam, I surrender to you. You instruct me. As if he didn't know. But perfectly presenting himself as a conditioned soul, perplexed by material existence, which is the position that we are all in. So why is he doing like that? It is a pastime between Krishna and Arjuna, but he's doing it for the benefit of entire human society. And Bhagavad Gita is being heard and chanted, 5,000 years later by us. So that was a good plan between Krishna and Arjuna to spread the word and get the teachings out there. Yes, let's have this conversation on the precipice of this battle, of this massive destructive occurrence, and let's use Arjuna's bewilderment and indecision and confusion about the whole situation to establish what is the real dharma, the living entity, to surrender to Krishna. And Prabhupada says, Arjuna, he knew everything. He's perfectly enlightened, perfectly empowered. But he did it for us. They did it for us. And apparently it's working, because we're still talking about it 5,000 years later. So Krishna knows what he's doing. And why? Because he's the all-powerful, perfect, infallible, all-knowing, omnipotent, supreme personality of Godhead. So he may making a great plan to rescue the conditioned souls. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna himself, he came again and said, all right, let's get this party going with the chanting of the holy name and make something wonderful happen in the Kali Yuga. So he did that. Advaitacharya said that things are so bad in this Kali Yuga now. Everyone's forgetting you. So only you can correct the situation. Only you, my dear Supreme Lord, are able to have the power and the potency to do something about this. So you please come down. He was calling him with loud cries, an offering of tulsi leaves and Ganga Jal to the Shalagram Shila deity. Although he himself is also the Supreme Personality of Godhead, an expansion, but a direct expansion, a plenary expansion of the Lord. He's God himself, but he's calling the Lord, oh my Lord. He's acting as if he were a devotee. Oh my Lord, only you can come and fix this. I can't do anything about it. It has to be you. All right, so we'll stop here. Thank you all very much. We have our first question from Kirtanesh.
Parameshwar Prabhu, when he was giving class here, he had said that they have those black boxes in the planes,
Yeah.
and they record everything, the pilots say right before the crash. So the number one thing that the pilots say before they crash is "Mom." So, we have to really be,
Mommy! Like a helpless child.
we have to really, you hear that that Chasing Riders with the Swami when George Harrison, they were in a plane, and they were going down, and they're saying he was just chanting Hare Krishna. So the devotee is a whole different consciousness.
Right. Instead of calling out Mom, he's calling out Krishna.
Well, it's more like Hare Krishna, Om Christ.
Yeah. That's what you say.
Yeah.
That's it.
I love that part.
A similar thing happened also. Harikesh told a story about how he was in a plane that was turbulence, and then it dropped, and he was chanting Hare Krishna, and then all the people around him, thought, maybe he's crazy or something. And then the plane leveled out, and they thought, oh, it's because he chanted Hare Krishna. They all clapped for him. Thank you for saving us by chanting Hare Krishna. Yes. Someone else? Okay.
So there were several things that caught my attention, but one of the first ones that I wanted to comment on was how maybe Krishna plays tricks on us. You come and you try to do a good thing, and then things get harder. And I was just thinking about, you were talking about the kids splashing each other in the pool or tricking each other. And then I was thinking you only really try to trick somebody. When I was a kid, we used to say, hey, look, I caught a bug. And then you'd squirt them in the eye when they'd look in your hands. And when you really like somebody, you tease them because I personally would not tease or try to say a rude thing to somebody if I didn't like them or if I didn't trust them. But I would say, something kind of rude to somebody as a joke when I liked them. And then they would usually laugh, and you get in a little wrestling match and you'd laugh at each other because I had teased them. And I figure that might be how life is. Sometimes when you're loved, you get picked on. And then when they don't love you, they just ignore you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You should be careful not to try to use the Bhagavatam class as a forum for just saying whatever you're thinking about or this or that, but rather you should read Prabhupada's books, and then when you want to ask a question or give a comment, do it in the context of what is in the Shastra, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And that way it keeps everything compact in Krishna consciousness. And then one has to learn that art. And then if one can understand that they're not very experienced, they need to learn, then they should simply hear instead of try to
Makes sense.
just to talk about different things that are in one's mind. So that is the etiquette.
I'm sorry. I just tried to make sense of it.
Yeah, so that you can better to ask a relevant question than to give a presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So you have to learn the ways of devotional service like that. Prabhupada used to say that he would hear a spiritual master. He said sometimes I wouldn't even understand what he was talking about, but I would go on hearing. And then when they presented him, here is one devotee that's ready for initiation, Prabhupada said, oh yes, I have marked him. He likes to hear. He does not go away. Prabhupada wasn't saying anything, wasn't putting himself forward, but he was just simply hearing. Krishna consciousness and absorbing it. And then he said, the only question I ever ask my spiritual master is, how can I serve you? So, all right, anyone else? All right, thank you very much. We're ahead of schedule today. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.